Hey guys, it's me, Johnny Pialu, back here again with another review. This will be for episode 4 of season 1 of Interview with the Vampire. This episode is called The Ruthless Pursuit of Blood with a Child's Demanding. So, with this episode, we get to see, I believe with the prior episode, we see the introduction of Claudia. But with this episode, we really get to see the introduction of Claudia in her introduction into Louis and Lestat's family and just in their relationship and how the relationship with Claudia will impact Louis and Lestat's relationship with each other and how Claudia has her own relationship with Louis and her own relationship with Lestat and just to see Claudia herself as her own individual. And I truly, I truly believe Claudia really adds like a good meaty portion to Louis and Lestat's relationship. Like she really adds substance and a lot of purpose, especially when we think about Louis's character. Um, Claudia is a tremendous fixture in his life. So the episode opens with Daniel in Dubai. He's on the phone. He's asking someone questions, and they're kind of avoiding him and everything. So he is approached by Rashid, and Rashid gives him all of these old documents. And Rashid lets him know that, you won't be talking to Louis today. Louis resting. So this is pretty much like your free day, and he's given all of these old documents. And unbeknownst to him, these are Claudia's journals. And Claudia's journals really gives, like, yeah, Louis is giving his account of what is happening, but Claudia is kind of like a third party to maybe kind of verify or fact check a lot of what Louis is saying, especially as we go along the timeline with that we have with Claudia now that she's with Louis and Lestat. So during this time, we transition to Claudia's recollection about when she was, I guess you say, transition into becoming a vampire, when she was turned into a vampire. And it was very traumatic in the actual, like, the totality of it, but to hear Claudia recount it in like a childlike perspective, because at the time that she's turned, she's 14 years old. So she is a child, but on the cusp of becoming a young woman, and having about to go through puberty. So when Claudia, from her perspective, she's in the burning house, and her aunt, I believe she said, was try to get on the other side to get help and then maybe come back and get her, but her aunt died and trying to get back to her. So she sees Louis. Of course, she doesn't know Louis's name, so she calls him the Black Angel. So she says the Black Angel came and rescued her, and he took her through the city, and it felt like, I think it said she felt like she was flying, which would make sense because Louis is carrying her through the city, and because he is a vampire, he can move at such fast pace. So she said she gets there, she's laying in the bed, she sees the black vampire, or she's the Black Angel, and she says she also sees a white angel, which would be Lestat. She thinks that she is in heaven because in her mind she believes that she possibly has died, or she says she felt like she was dying or something like that while she was in the house. So she just laid down and waited for, I guess, like death to come, or waited for someone to come and get her. And that someone ended up being Louis. But she thinks it's an angel that's taking her to heaven. And unbeknownst to her, Louis is arguing with Lestat. Well, not arguing, he's really begging and pleading Lestat to turn Claudia, because he is feeling the pain and the guilt of everything that is happening. The black community, their homes, they're being murdered, their homes being burned, and he knows that it's in retaliation of what he did to the alderman. So he of course feels like he has to right this wrong. And he's begging Lestat to turn Claudia because he wants to feel as if he could save at least one life that was harmed because of him. And Lestat is very nonchalant, kind of standoffish about it, like, oh, what you think she's gonna be a daughter? Or kind of like, because in his mind, the people did whatever they did by their own volition, and it's in his mind, it's just kind of not worth going through. He just kind of doesn't. This is another instance, I believe, on his end where Louis is concerned with human affairs, and so Louis is begging Lestat. He's like, please, please do it, turn her and everything. And so Lestat, he does it in a very like, okay, I do this for you. You better do something for me. Because Lestat, I believe Louis promises that, I can't remember, I could be drawing from season two, but I believe Louis in season one, it shows where, of course, he's begging, but I can't remember if he like promises. Well, I know Lestat brings up that, oh, now you want to turn her, and just before you were ready to leave our home, because you have to keep in mind that when everything was happening in response to him killing the alderman, Lestat was happy about it. He was not happy in the sense that he was happy about people being attacked, but in his mind he saw it as Louis coming into himself as a vampire. So he was happy that Louis had stepped into this dark side, and he said it would be like an anniversary for the both of them, to which Louis was like, nah, I'm not on that, and the fact that you on that is the reason why you're gonna always be alone. And Lestat took that to heart because, like he already told Louis, his greatest fear is being alone. And Louis like threw that in his face, like, and that's why you're gonna be alone. So he's like, okay, so you was just so eager to leave. Now you want to stay because you want her here and you want me to go along with it. And so it's kind of like, so if this is gonna get you to stay, okay, we'll go along and play along with it. But it's like a smug, kind of like a smug response, like, okay, if I do this for you, you better pretty much do what I want you to do, and not do what I want you to do, but do what I want you to do. So Lestat turns Claudia, and being that Claudia was made into a vampire at such a young age, she's extremely impulsive, especially when it comes to hunting. Now, when they first go out with Claudia to go on a hunt, she seems to be a bit, well, she is a bit naive. She learns even before she goes out on her first hunt, they have the scene where they are kind of in the courtyard. I guess we would say the courtyard of the house, where they're kind of going over everything. Where Claudia is talking to Louis and Lestat, and she's asking them questions about why do they do this? How do they end up like that? Why are their fingernails like that? And that's what she learns, where she can communicate telepathically with Louis, but not with Lestat. He can't read their minds because he made them. And so Lestat, not Lestat, but Louis and Claudia, you can already tell that that's the foundation. That's going to already be a foundation of them being very close and having this very like maternal, like parent child, almost like mother child relationship, because Claudia does get a lot of her nurturing from Louis, and Lestat is a lot more callous with Claudia, being that, they are vampires. And I think also just the whole, how she came about from Louis' perspective about how Lestat felt about it. Lestat is a bit iffy about Claudia. She's kind of like a means to an end to keep Louis. So Claudia and Louis are, they're talking telepathically, and of course Lestat can't hear, so he gets a little agitated about that. And that's when he says that, if they're going to be a family, they can't keep secrets. And this is very important to note that Lestat said this when we get further along into the show, because he's not going to hold true to that. And that most definitely is going to be a key point in their dynamic as a family. So, I'm looking over my notes. So, yeah. Another thing is that Lestat and Louis do differ in how they parent Claudia, and that most definitely impacts her relationship that she has with both of them. Louis is much more nurturing, much more warmer, much more willing to teach and show Claudia, whereas Lestat always kind of has like an agitated approach with Claudia. It's almost like, if I tell you this one time, you better get it. I don't feel like telling you this again. And that's kind of like this, and the same thing he did with Louis is kind of the same way that he's working with Claudia, like bulldozing them through vampirism. Like he knows that they are brand new vampires, but it's almost at the same time he does not want to be tied down and have to deal with teaching them how to be vampires. He just wants them, it's almost like he wants them to be ready made, but they're not going to be ready made. You have to teach them. You are their maker, they are your fledgling. And it's like he gets frustrated with the process, but then he also gets frustrated when they show signs and they do things that shows they're not prepared. They don't know what they're doing. Like when Claudia, she just goes out and she gets the smell of a prey or whatever, and she doesn't. She's impulsive. She's very young, and then she's very new to being a vampire. She doesn't even understand the impact of going immediately after a kill and just draining them, leaving their body. What that'll do. And it's like Lestat becomes frustrated with her, but he's also not teaching her. So it's just, you kind of get that from Lestat. It's like he wants these people there for his entertainment and for his want and his need. He doesn't want to be lonely, but it's like, what are you doing to help these vampires? How are you going to maintain a relationship with these people if it's almost like, okay, I want you to be here as the way to pacify me, but in the meantime, figure it out on your own. So with that, Louis is much more warm. Lestat is a lot more harsher in how he treats Claudia. But another thing is, one thing to point out, especially in their not dynamics, Claudia calls Louis daddy and she calls Lestat uncle. Another thing to point out is that because Claudia was turned at the age of 14, she will always be 14. And that that is something that we will see have a tremendous impact on Claudia. And something that I don't think Louis understood or even planned for, the fact that Claudia will always be this 14-year-old girl. So she will always be at this point in her life where she is in between childhood, puberty, and trying to transition into womanhood. So her mind and where she wants to go will always be in conflict with her body. Therefore, it will always conflict with how people see her and treat her. She's going to have this existence of contention, and she's going to always be at odds with herself. She's going to always be feeling like she does not belong in her own body. And it's essentially, yes, she's a vampire, but her existence as a vampire is going to be tumultuous because she's always like in this, she's like in this purgatory of puberty. Like she's not yet a child, not yet a woman. and she does not know how to navigate that. She does not know, like, just kind of always being in an identity crisis. And that's essentially Claudia's existence now because she is a teenage vampire. So, because she is a teenage vampire, Claudia does annoy Lestat with a lot of her teenage isms and her, I guess say, learning curves. She journals a lot when they are supposed to be sleeping in the coffin. She asks so many questions because at first they do sleep in a coffin together, where her and Louis does. And so not only does that interrupt them sleeping, that also interrupts, you know, late night time between Louis and Lestat. So I'm pretty sure he's frustrated about that. Like, I can't even be with my man the way I want to. You just in the way. I didn't really want you here. He wanted you. I have to tolerate you and appease him by even, I guess, acting like I want to be bothered with you. So finally, Claudia gets her own coffin, and that's where she learns the true extent of Lestat and Louis' relationship, because she sees them going into each other's um coffins at night, and she hears them say and whisper sweet nothings to each other. So she really starts to learn the totality of even their relationship and how it's going to work in their family dynamic. um we get to a scene where Claudia and Louis is, they're on a I'm gonna say they're out on a bayou, and Claudia, we've gone through some time now. Claudia says that Lestat has secrets. I'm pretty sure at this time Lestat goes out, as we've seen. He's also, early on in the show, it's already been established when he's had this kind of rendezvous with Antoinette. And this is interesting because Lestat is the person who said that their family, they should not keep secrets. Claudia feels like Lestat keeps secrets from her and Louis. And Louis, he's like the buffer in between Lestat and Claudia. He he's the in between. He's kind of like, he is like the mother figure, whereas Lestat is almost like the incorrigible father. He's unrelenting. He doesn't want to understand the teenage child, which is Claudia, and the mama has to come in and play nice and appease both sides and tell the child, well, daddy loves you. He's just this and that. And then also with Lestat, give her some wiggle room, be understanding of her and where she's at. So Claudia says she feels like Lestat has secrets. Louis says it's because Lestat doesn't like talking about the past. And she asks him, well, how does it feel? Well, how is it for two men to love each other? And to which Louis tells her it's like love, which is a very beautiful way of putting it, even in that time and also in this time. There isn't really any difference in between two people of the same gender loving each other. It's no different. Like the whole existential thing, the whole existential maybe that might not be the best word, but what I would say, the whole experience of loving someone, respecting someone, having a relationship with them. Yes, it can be a man and a woman, it can be two men, it can be two women. But when you love someone, you love that person. So it is a love. Love is love. Now, there are different types of love. There are family loves, romantic, self love, friendship love, platonic. But he was like, it's like love. And it works like love. And Claudia asked him, did he ever like girls? And he said that he pretended to at one time. And Lestat still does like women. So we kind of get that Lestat is bisexual, whereas Louis is just gay. Or we'll say just, yeah, he just wants men, or is attracted to men. Claudia does ask, does Lestat do that? Ask, does Lestat When he goes out. I guess she starts from my notes. Claudia asks Louis why Lestat goes out for his kills, and Louis tells Claudia it's because Lestat gets extravagant with his kills, and that's where he explains to Claudia that you have to be smart about how you are going about your prey and you know unaliving people because it can come back. It can have huge consequences. And he says the fact how she got there to be with them was because of one of his kills, the consequences of it. Her being in that burning room and board house is consequences because of what he did to the alderman and the white people in the town attacking the black residents. They didn't have anything to do with it, but they knew that it was with all of the racial tensions before, how the alderman was killed. They just used that as an opportunity to exact violence on the black community. So he tells her that you have to be careful of that. And Lestat does like to get extravagant with his kills. He doesn't want to be a part of that anymore. So they separate that. And he said that he went through that because that was during a time where he was trying to hold on to human affairs while still being a vampire. And he said now that he has Claudia, he doesn't need those human affairs. And I think, and the fact that we transition to, I might be getting ahead of myself, but I'll go ahead and we do transition to, I think I'm getting ahead of myself with this one. But it's a good thing to point out because it already shows this conversation already shows the closeness and the depth of Claudia and Louis' relationship. The fact that he can openly admit that without explicitly saying it that he is gay. He's vulnerable enough to admit there was a time that he did go along with gender norms and social norms and pretended to like women and went along and kept up the charade of being with a woman, even though that wasn't the case. He had to feel very safe with Claudia. He had to feel like the love and the safety for both of them to even see each other and have that moment together. Claudia she just had this wonderment, she just always, in this moment, she had this, in her eyes, you could see this need and this want and this desire to understand Louis, and because she loves him so much. Like she really looks at him as his father, and in that moment, you really saw her looking at him as her father and him looking at her as his daughter. If and then you felt also the elements of grace, and you feel that Claudia is now what Grace was to Louis. Even though they're both vampires, the human element of this relationship where they both are, and then on top of that, they both can go through this experience together. Yes, Louis has been a vampire for a few years now, but this is still very new for him. And also, he shares the experience of being of color with Claudia. He shares the experience of being from New Orleans with Claudia. He shares the experience of being a newly formed vampire, living with this white French vampire in New Orleans with Claudia. He shares so much commonality, and I think he really has the opportunity to see himself in his new existence with Claudia. And I think that makes being a vampire and moving through it a lot more easier. And he has someone to, even from his point of view, to kind of counsel in a way. And he's able to hold on to that human aspect of family with Claudia without trying to actually hold on to his family that he essentially has had to let go. Um, One thing to point out is that we do go to present day Dubai, and Daniel does walk in on Rashid. He's praying, and I believe I can't. It's probably on the tip of my tongue, but Rashid apparently is follows a religion where they do pray about 5 times a day. I believe it's on the tip of my tongue. I can't pinpoint it right now, but Daniel picks up on that. Um, Rashid is speaking another language, and it's not the language of Dubai, and that's what he tells him Dubai as a child. So that also lets Daniel know that Rashid is from somewhere other than Dubai. So there's a lot of other secrets that he has to figure out as well. So we get to the point where Claudia now has her own bedroom. Not only does she has her own coffin, she has her own bedroom. Some years have passed. Claudia is now, I want to say probably like 17, 18. We still see that there's little moments, like she has a birthday party and they give her a necklace, and it's implied that she hasn't grown into it yet. She's still that very young bodied young woman, even though she's no longer 14. She's now 17, 18, 19. Louis' mom dies. And they go to the wake, and this is where we see Grace and her husband. And at this time, there is a lot of tension between Grace and Louis, and it's implied that years have gone past, and more than likely, it's been years since the last time Louis has saw Grace. And the last time Louis has saw Grace and Levi was when he busted through the door for the girl's birthday party, and the mama had said that pretty much she saw the devil in Louis, and it was time. And I'm pretty sure he did not go back home ever since then. He had got the phone call, I believe, during Claudia's birthday party that the mama had passed. Um, there's obvious tension. Grace picks up on seeing Claudia. She's like, now, not only you been with this white man, you done flipped and changed. Now y'all done brought a child into it. And she's like, do you think that you and this white daddy are the best thing for this child? And you can just feel the tension, and you feel the breakdown of Louis and Grace's relationship. And the breakdown comes from the fear of the unknown and the fear of having to keep secrets. Louis can't tell Grace that he's a vampire. She knows that her brother has changed in a way that she cannot comprehend, but she doesn't know what. And I think that she's trying to figure out what to do with her love for him, her probably just her want to know, and just the loss of that relationship, what to do with that, where to put that love, that grief. Like, I think she legit is grieving losing Louis, even though he's still alive, even though he's dead, and she doesn't know he's dead, but she sees him. So it's like, what the hell is going on? I see my brother, he has not changed. He looks the exact same from 10, 15 years ago. I see him in the flesh. I can talk to him. His dynamic. He's with this person that literally, when he came into his life, he changed. From Grace's perspective, Lestat is the change that made Louis into what she does not understand. And he is. He is. It's like Lestat wanted his own forever person, and he took away Louis' forever in human life to have a forever with him on the other side, not realizing everyone who's impacted, or really probably not even caring about everyone who's impacted. So Louis ends up leaving the house to Grace and her husband. It's kind of implied that we're probably in the Great Depression at this time in the story, because she says, money is tight. She implies that the house, and Louis doesn't need the house. He can give them the house. Um, we see Claudia, she's really coming into herself. She's realizing that, I'm not 14 anymore. She was like, she looked up and realized she was now 18 years old. So, as a young woman at any time, whether it was that time, this time, you get through that, you were going through puberty and you get to 18, 19, 20, and you start feeling you grown. So you want to go out and start doing grown things. Claudia starts um putting on makeup. She kind of has the flapper outfit of the 20s. So we see that we're in the mid to late 20s because we see a lot of the flapper attire, even in the makeup. It's giving very much so 20s. So, and that would make sense with Claudia being a teenager during this time. So she goes out and she meets a young boy, young black boy named Charlie, and he he's on a horse. So I'm assuming that he kind of like probably works where he works with horses, or that's how he's giving transport throughout the city, making money that way. And so, of course, Claudia looks younger than what she is. So, you know, we go through the timeline of Charlie becoming interested in Claudia. They're starting to like each other. When he drives, where he rides by on a horse, he'll maybe drop a note or a flower and she'll run down and get it. And we see little instances where Louis picking up on Claudia doing something and he's trying to read her mind and she blocks him out. So she's really going through like her first crush. And in her mind, going to have her first boyfriend. So they go out on an ice cream date, and this is where Charlie, he expresses to Claudia that, you know, you're a young girl. If you were older, I would want to go out with you more. You're so pretty. I like you. And Claudia's like, I am a girl of, I am older than what you think I am. And he was like, there's no way you're older than me or you're about the same age as me. Because he thinks Claudia is younger than what she is. And she's like, no, I am. So they begin to spend more time together. They've had their ice cream date and everything. So we get to the part where they're in the back of his carriage, and you know tensions are getting a little bit hot and heavy. She likes him, he likes her, and they start to kiss. Claudia, this is her first time ever kissing, so she's like wrapped up in it. Even like her hormones are hot and heavy, and she's really kissing Charlie, and they're making out, and then she gets to she's a vampire now. So I'm pretty sure she's heightened in this hormonal change in this moment, and she bites Charlie, and she gets to sucking his blood and sucking on his neck and things. Being that she's a new vampire, she's not able to control herself, and she just drinks and drinks and drinks, not realizing that she's draining Charlie. She's killing him. And so when she finally gets her feel, she pulls back and she's like, Charlie, Charlie. And she realizes that she has, he's not responding. He's dead. She's drained him of his blood. And she's frantic. She doesn't want to. Oops, sorry, guys. Sorry about that. She's frantic and she's trying to figure out what to do as far as trying to keep him alive, even though he's not alive. So she brings his body back home. And of course, Louis is just kind of looking downtrodden. He knows, he's like, he doesn't really even say much, but his body language is like, oh my God, my baby girl, this has happened. I don't even know how to console her in this moment. Let's start. is looking like like he finally has the opportunity to just like stick it to her and like give her a hard lesson and make it hard. And Charlie's body's on the table and she's like, help me turn him. And he said, you didn't half kill him, you completely killed him. You can't turn him, he's dead. And he's just so blatant and so blunt in it. And yes, it is a hard truth that Claudia has to deal with, but it's like Lestat is intentional in making it hurt even worse. Like he wants her to learn this lesson so hard, so much so to the point that he makes her watch Charlie's body burn in the incinerator, and she's crying and she's trying to look away from it. You know, she's a young girl. This was her first ever crush, her first boyfriend before he was actually really her boyfriend. And because she got caught up in the moment as anyone would, and she started kissing, and she felt a nature to take it further, and she bites him. Whereas with a human, they probably would have started taking off clothes, actually engaging and having sex. But because she's a vampire, she would go to bite. And it's like Lestat has no, it's like even in this moment, she's still very new. She's very young. And he just has no resolve for it. He just has no empathy, no sympathy, anything. And as she turns her head, he grabs her head and turns it back and makes her watch it as his flesh is burning. And he's saying, this is why we don't get involved with human affairs. And Louis says that changed Claudia, which it would. It made her darker. This was a pivotal moment to teach her the harsh reality of being a vampire, but you get more bees with honey. I this most definitely took a downward turn in the relationship between Lestat and Claudia, because this, from Claudia's perspective, Lestat was so callous that she probably feels as if she could never trust him. She could never come to him, and the fact that he handled her in such gross negligence, it almost feels as if like you hate her, like you don't like her. And I'm pretty sure from her perspective, that's how she feels. And in this moment, she's gonna cleave even more to Louis, because yes, Louis. But in this moment, Louis didn't say anything. Like you, it's like Louis has these moments where you can kind of see where he could have told Lestat, like, wait a minute, like calm down, wait a minute, like, this is hard. But maybe he was just stuck in the moment, but he doesn't say anything. But you see it all in his body language. You see it all over his face. He doesn't like the way Lestat is handling Claudia. He doesn't think that it's right. He doesn't want her to have to go through this pain and this hard learning lesson that he himself has had to go through, but he's not saying anything. But so this really is, and I don't think that Claudia probably felt alone, like Lestat, like Louis would never help her, but I think she did feel alone in this very dark moment, in this very isolating moment, and she felt even more alone with Lestat being so callous about it and so disregarding of her in her youthfulness and her feelings in this moment and in her naivete. Um, so she starts to most definitely hate Lestat at this moment, and she becomes more drawn to Louis. So we go back to present day. Mind you, Daniel has read through all of these journals, and he says Claudia is like Anne Frank meets Stephen King, which is a beautiful, not I don't say beautiful, but it's an interesting analogy, because Claudia is like an Anne Frank. She does give so much background, and it really does read like a, probably kind of like an everyday vlog what we will understand as an everyday vlog in her writing, but it has this very dark, macabre element because she's a vampire and she's recollecting all the people she is pretty much drunk throughout in their final moments when they're screaming and she's like, "Thank you, Mr. Streetcar Driver," and stuff like that. I hope they got some more at your company. Like, girl, you just took somebody's life and you like, I hope they got another one, like they got another pack of cookies at Nabisco in the factory. So he does question Louis about where the journals were in 1973 when he first interviewed Louis. And Louis tells him that they were scattered about and things like that. And Daniel does not believe him because there are pages that are missing in the journals, like as if they were cut out and things. And so Louis kind of lets him know that throughout the years, being that we know that Claudia is no longer here, but we don't get to the part, we're no longer near the part, we're no longer, not no longer, but we're not at the part where she is no longer with us. But I'm pretty sure that throughout the years, Louis himself has read Claudia's journals, and he says that it was hard for him as her paternal figure to know of all the times that she, in her mind and her life and her recollection of things, felt as if Louis failed her, and she was hurt by failing, his failures of her, and that hurt him to hear his, pretty much to have to read his dead child's words on how she felt as if her daddy let her down. That was hard. And he did not want Daniel to read that. He was like, what if you read your daughter's journals and found out all the ways and you had failed her and let her down and all the things that she endured because of it? You wouldn't want to read that. You wouldn't want someone else to read that. And he admits that Charlie's death really ushered in a dark time. And we see that when we go back to when we end the episode and Claudia's kind of on her monologue where she's tired of what she's been through. She's tired of being trapped in this little girl body. She's tired of not knowing things. We see Claudia once again battling with who she currently is and where her mind wants to go. She always has this internal battle with her mind and her body because she has the mind of a growing woman, but the body of a teenager or a young woman, a young girl. And it's just always conflicting in her everyday life. And we will most definitely see that as the seasons go on, especially in Claudia's character arc. But if you watch the episode, if you have any feedback, or even if you picked up on something that I didn't, or you do agree or disagree, just let me know in the comments. Interact, like the video, or leave a comment or anything. And we'll be back with episode 5 of season 1 of Interview with the Vampire. Bye.